Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to a new Blender tutorial. So this tutorial is a follow-up to the previous tutorial, and today we are going to texture this. So we are going to set up all the materials and stuff. The final result will be something like this. And one more thing, if you want to download the finished project, you can go to my Patreon page. So you'll support the channel in the process. So if you're interested, link is in the description. And before you start the tutorial, you can download all the textures. So all textures are completely royalty free. That means you can use them in your own projects. So yeah, all the links are in the description. And if you haven't followed the previous tutorial, I'll leave a link. You can go there and you can watch that. So now when that's said, let's start with the tutorial. First, I'm going to select this part of the axe and we are going to delete that. So just select this and press your delete key. And let me turn on my screencast keys so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to select the axe head. Go under the materials and add a new material. And this will be the blade material. So you can just rename it here. And this is where you make your material. So if I change the color to something like blue, as you can see, the color changes in real time. And you will be able to view our materials only when you are in the material view or the rendered view. So make sure that you are in the material view and not in the object view, because in the object view you will not be able to see the materials. So go back in your material view. So we have successfully assigned the blade material. I'm going to do the same thing. Select this, add a new material, and we are going to name it the handle material. I'm going to change the color of this to something like a yellowish color. So now we have assigned our materials and we need to import all our textures. So to import all our textures and stuff, we can't do it right here. This is just for making simple materials. To make complex shaders and complex materials, you need to go in the shader tab. Okay, so now we are going to import our textures, and for importing our textures, there are two ways. One way is to import all the textures manually, and the second way is the easy way, and it is really quite simple, and Blender will automatically set up all the textures for us. We just need to enable an add-on. So we are going to use the second way because this is a beginner level tutorial. So we are going to go under the edit menu and under the preferences, we are going to open the add-on section and you can just search for node. Just enable this node wrangler add-on, and this add-on will give us a lot of shortcuts that we can use. So just enable this and you can close this. And after you have enabled that, you can select the principal shader and you can press Ctrl Shift T. So by using this method, you can select all your textures and Blender will set up all those individual textures for us. So this is a simple scratched metal texture. So select the first color map and you can shift select the last one. So all the textures are selected. And when all the textures are selected, just press this button. So principal texture setup. And as you can see, the Node Wrangler add-on has automatically set up all the things for us. There are some things here that are not correct and we need to change. But we'll do that later. First, we need to fix the UVs of this axe. As you can see, the texture is not correctly applied. The texture is sort of stretching here. So to fix this texture stretching, what you can do is select the axe head, go in the edit mode, double tap A to select all the faces. So all the faces are selected. And this has the mirror modifier applied. So whatever we do here, all the texture and stuff will be mirrored here. So we don't need to worry about that. So after everything is selected, you can press your U key. And by pressing a U key, we get the UV mapping settings. And we'll just do a quick smart UV project and press OK. And as you can see, the texture stretching has been fixed. And our material is looking quite good. But there is one thing that is not correct. If we come back in a material setup right here, if we hover our mouse in the metallic node, as you can see, the metallic node is referencing the color map. So this is not correct. So the Node Wrangler add-on has picked the color map, the color texture for the metallic socket. So we don't want that. So what you can do is you can close this and you can manually fix this. So go in the textures folder. And you can just pick the metal texture, and the metallic texture is just a black and white texture. So you can think of it as a mask map. So just select this and open image. So now we have fixed that. and our model looks really quite good. So as you can see, we have those scratches and stuff, and we have a really high quality of detail. These are all high quality 2K textures, so these look really quite good. So our axe looks really quite good. So we need to make the decal right here, the Nordic Viking symbol. But first I need to explain this, what is happening right here. So as you can see, if we go in a UV editing, all the faces right here are laid out in a 2D way. So this is what UV unwrapping means. UV unwrapping is just mapping all these faces in a 2D view. And if I go into the material view, and if I select everything right here, press A in the UV mode, and if I move this, as you can see, the texture also moves. So that's what UV mapping means. So this is a mapping node, and it is saying that we have taken the UV information. We need to connect this into all of these textures. And now this is quite easy. So the base color is the color texture. It is connected into the base color. So here previously we had the color that we could change, the color slider. But now if we connect this, we don't need that. So this texture replaces the color directly. This metallic texture is just your grayscale black and white texture. And we have a metallic input right here. So we could just connect that here. The roughness, again, similar thing, grayscale texture. Connect it into the roughness. So this is quite self-explanatory. Now the normal map is a special kind of texture that gives you a higher quality of detail without increasing the number of polygons. So if I decrease the strength of the normal map, we get a more shiny look. And if you're going for this, it is completely fine. But if I bump up the strength to 1, as you can see, we get that bump. And the displacement map is a similar texture. It is a black and white texture. And that will also provide a sense of realism to our models. The displacement map is optional. So now that's that. So once we have these textures, we need to add that Nordic symbol. And we need to add the symbol right here. So for that, I'm going to zoom in right here. And we are going to press Shift A. And we are going to search for a mix shader. And we are going to connect the mix shader in between the principled and the material output. Just connect it here. These whole textures and stuff are connected in this principled shader, and this principled shader is finally connected into the first socket of the mix shader. So this shader mixes two shaders. It is quite self-explanatory. I'll show you. So Shift A, I'm going to add a principled shader. Principled BSDF. And let me organize these things so you can drag and move. And now we are going to connect this into the second socket of the mix shader. If I change the color to something like blue, if I change the factor to 0, the first principled shader is completely active. And if I change it all the way to 1, the second shader is active. And we are still getting the displacement because the displacement map is connected directly here. So we are still getting those cracks and stuff. So you can see what the displacement map does. Now there are multiple ways to do this, but I'm doing this in a very simple way because this is a beginner friendly tutorial. So we are going to use something called as a masked map. And a masked map is just a black and white map. So the black parts will be affected by this and the white parts will be affected by this. So we mask out an area and we tell Blender that we want these shaders to be applied in that area. So we are sort of isolating areas and we are assigning different textures to them. You'll understand that in a second. So Shift A, we are going to add an image texture. So now we can directly connect the color into the factor and nothing changes, as you can see. We need to open the mask map. And as you can see, I'm going to open this rune texture. And as you can see, we see the texture. And this rune symbol is affected by this blue principled shader. And if you want to invert this, like if you wanted to invert this, you can just invert these nodes. And now the rune is metallic and all the other things are affected by the second principled shader. So you could just invert this like that. But we don't want that, so I'll Control Z that thing. And now this is not properly mapped. First we need to map this properly. Go in your UV editing. Okay, now when in the UV editor, go in your edit mode and select everything. So we can see our faces right here. And you can just scale this and rotate this right here. And this looks good, like this looks fine. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go in my front view. And when in your front view, as you can see, this is sort of distorted. So you can select this face right here. You can press U and you can just unwrap this from the view. So now this is unwrapped from the view, and as you can see, we can scale this and we can position this texture however you like. The red color is not looking good, so just change the color. And as you can see, we still have that displacement, so we don't want that. And the displacement is a bit too much. So to reduce the displacement, you can just control and click like that to remove the displacement. So we have completely removed the displacement, and as you can see, we lose some detail. You can come back right here and you can utilize this displacement texture in a different way. So Shift A, we are going to add something called as a bump node. And this bump node combines the normal map and the displacement map. So connect the normal into the normal, the displacement into the height, because the displacement map is also called a height map. So you can connect the displacement map into the height, and the bump normal finally replaces the normal that we had previously. So now we get back the displacement, and that is crazy high displacement. So let me reduce the strength. We need a subtle detail, subtle displacement. So a value of 0.01, let's see. Yeah, a value of 0.01 looks good. And as you can see, the areas in which we have that symbol, there is no displacement. So that is really quite good. Okay, so now that looks good. You can go one step further and you can replace this simple principled shader with your own texture. Like you can substitute this color for a texture right here. So we are just going to do that. Control Shift T, and we are going to open the painted metal texture. Select everything and press Principled Texture Setup. And as you can see, we have a lot of clutter. I'm going to organize my shaders. Okay, something like this. So this is the metal thing, and this is the texture thing. And once you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, like you can see what individual nodes do. So remember I told you that the mask map is a black and white texture. So to see that in action, you can select this Rune texture right here, and after selecting this, you can press Ctrl Shift and you can click on this again. So the black parts and the white parts, and the black part is using the metal textures and the white part is using the painted metal textures. That's how you can understand things. And as you can see, we have a sort of a UV mapping issue right here, but it is quite small and people will not notice it. So for this tutorial, for now, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, let me just Control Z. So now it's time to make the handle. For the handle, I'm going to use a wooden texture. So select the handle and we are going to go in the layout view. So we are going to assign the wood texture. So some parts of this handle will have the wood texture and some parts will have the same metal texture. So first, go in your edge select, and when you are in your edge select, you can Alt and click to select this edge loop. And once this edge loop is selected, you can press your U key and you can just mark this seam. And this is important for UV mapping. So as you can see, the edge loop is highlighted by a red color. Now we can start isolating our areas for the wood texture. Press Z key twice and B to box select these faces. Box select these faces. And you can maybe spend a lot of time doing this, but I want to keep this tutorial short, so I'm just hurrying up. Once all your wood texture faces are selected, you can press this plus button and you can add a new material and rename this to wood. Just wood, that will work fine. And you can press this assign button. Don't forget to assign this material. So press this button. And if you go in your material view, as you can see, all the parts of our handle have this yellow handle texture, but the areas that we selected have this wood texture. So now we'll open up our wood textures and we'll quickly assign them. Go in your shading tab. And again, we have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled. So you can press Ctrl Shift T and open up your wood texture. Shift select to select everything. Highlight the wood texture, like the wood material. And you can press the select button to select all the faces. And once all the faces are selected, you can press your U key and you can unwrap it. There are multiple options, you can try these out. So the smart UV project should work, but for this tutorial I'm going to use a cylinder project because this is a cylinder, right? So we can use the cylinder project, and as you can see, this works fine. You could maybe tweak the UVs and stuff, but for now I'm going to leave it like that. We are going to go to the handle, so Ctrl Shift T, and we are going to open up a metal texture. So the same metal texture that we used for the axe head. So we have all these textures. Once again, we need to fix this. So the Node Wrangler add-on has used the color texture for the metallic. So we don't want that. We need the metallic texture for the metallic. So go here and choose the metalness texture. And we have some UV mapping issues, as you can see. So go in your edit mode, A to deselect everything. Select this handle material and select this. So this will select all the faces that have this handle material. And after that, you can press your U key. Similar thing, a cylinder project. So when you're making simple objects, you can get away with using the cylinder project and the inbuilt UV mapping projection tools. But when you're making a complex thing, you will have to manually mark those seams. So I'll make a tutorial on that also, like an advanced texturing tutorial if you want. Okay, so as you can see, our axe looks good. I'm not happy with the handle, like the wood material. I would maybe spend more time on texturing this wooden thing. But for now, I'm going to leave it like that. So we need to do one more thing. This is a battle axe. So we need to Shift D, duplicate this thing on the y-axis. And we need to rotate this 180 degrees. So in the first tutorial, we modeled this axe, and in this tutorial, we finally completed our axe by texturing it. I'm going to end the tutorial right here. If you like the tutorial, leave a like down below, it helps a lot. And download the finished project file on my Patreon. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.